Now that we've added the ability to add recipes to our database, we now want to give the user the ability to search through them. Let's set that up. Here we have an input, and we're going to ask them to type in something over here to get a list of results. Now, for us to be able to return a list of results, we first need to have a list of recipes to cycle through. On the page itself, I'm going to add a backend query. This is a query collection of type recipe and a list of documents. I'm going to say that it is ordered by saved decreasing. This is just going to store a list of documents on the page itself. But this query should actually look similar. It's what we had over here on our list view. Instead of doing a backend query of our own, we can just use the query on the page. So I'm going to name this popular recipes, and then make the value of this just our recipe document on the page. What this is going to do is it's going to take the list of documents that was previously collected on the page and then display it over here. We can just click save and it's going to generate our dynamic children like normal. You might have to go back in and make sure you map things to the correct thing. What this looks like is you change the path to our popular recipe items and then image or name or cook time, but mine is already working. Now we can go ahead and work out our text field functionality. To start, I'm going to click on this text field, scroll all the way down, and choose Autocomplete. We have a list of recipes, and when the user is typing something in, we want to have that nice functionality where it will autocomplete. I'll show you what that means in a second. When we select yes to autocomplete, these autocomplete properties pop up. We want to select our autocomplete option. We want to click this dynamic thing so it's dynamic, but you could also type it in like so and keep adding options. We're going to choose our recipe document, which is just a list of all of the recipes, and then get map list items, get document property, and then get the name. What this is going to do is it's going to retrieve all of the names of the recipes, and the moment the user starts typing something in, it's going to find the recipe name that relates to and try to autocomplete the user's query. Now we want this icon button to send us to a new page for search. So when they click this, they're navigated to this page to search our recipes. I'm going to create a new page. We can call this search, just create a blank page. This starts off with a column. I'm going to add 24 pixels of gap spacing on all sides. I'm going to drag a container in, remove the background, let it stretch the whole way, and then drag an icon in as well. I'm going to make the icon our back arrow, and then just add an action to navigate back to whatever page we were previously on. On this container, I'm going to remove the height so it contracts fully, and then make the child alignment flush to the left side. I'm going to add 16 pixels of item spacing on this column. I'm going to drag a container in and then put a row in it. Our container is going to stretch the entire way and have no background. I'm also going to go back to our home page and then copy this text field because it's nicely formatted. I'm actually going to go ahead and copy this row in general actually because it is already how we want it. So that means I'm going to delete the row in this container and paste it in. For this container, I'm going to remove the height fully. The row already has some built-in padding, so I'm going to remove that. Now, I want to add in something to make this grid. This is something we haven't used before, but I talked about briefly in the responsive design video. It's called grid view. I'm going to drag this in and then drag one container in there. This grid view is going to be shrink wrapped, which means it contracts to the smallest amount. The cross-axis count The cross-axis count is going to be 2. And I'm going to do 8 pixels of spacing for the cross-axis and main axis. I'm going to make this container, remove the height, and then remove the background so we can see this container much more clearly. This is going to stretch the entire way. It'll just take up basically half, and then we can modify the height. On this container, I'm going to add 12 pixels of rounding on all sides. I'm going to drag an image in. I'm going to drag a column into here and then an image. Let's just make it a little smaller, and then some text under it. This column is going to have 8 pixels of gap spacing. Our image is going to have 8 pixels of padding all around except for the bottom. It's going to stretch only the available space, and I'm going to expand the height, just eyeballing it. This text is eventually going to read the name. This looks good for now. So we have this built up to be able to copying this container, you can see how the grid works. But now we need something to actually display in this grid view. Remember in the previous page, the home page, where we had retrieved a list of documents on the page itself. We want to access that same list of documents. We want to do that same query on this page. So I'm going to add a query. This will be a query collection to get a list of recipes, but instead of ordering it by popularity, I'm going to order it by date created descending. And just click confirm. Now on this grid view, similar to what we did on the home page, we can generate children from that variable. I'm going to call this recipes, and it's just going to take all of the recipe documents that we got and display them over here in each of these items in the grid view. Now for the image, we can change the path to our recipe item, image, and then our recipe item name. Perfect. I'm also going to go ahead and go back to this container and rename this. This is going to be called no search. By default, when nothing is being searched, this is what we are going to see. But there's another case. When we are on the home page, we type something in, it autocompletes for us, and we click this button to search. We're then redirected to this search page, where we don't want to see these like every single recipe. We only want to see the recipes we searched for. So I'm going to take this no search container and copy paste. Now we have a new container. Instead of being called no search, this is going to be called original results. And this is going to display the result of the search. But how does it know what we searched for? Because on the home page, all we do is because on the home page, they just type it in, click this to navigate to our search page, but it doesn't do anything really. What we need to do is whatever the search term is, we want to send it to our search page. But before we add that functionality, for us to be able to send something, we need to have a place to retrieve it. This is where page parameters comes in, and we can add a parameter up here, and this is going to be called search term. What this is going to do is it's going to hold a string up here on our page. So when we're on this home page and we're trying to navigate to our search page, we can pass in our search term as whatever is selected in this text field. We can try this out. It's not going to actually search for us, but we can see a little bit. an allusion to the functionality that we're going to get. While that's working, there are a couple more things we can do. So now we have sent over our search term and we're able to store it here. The first thing we want to do is edit this text field. For starters, we want this to display our search term by default. So I'm going to go to initial value and set this to our search term page parameter. This just means if over here I type in chocolate ice cream, when it's sent over here, this is going to display chocolate ice cream. So we're sending terms back and forth. We have these grid views set up to display something, but nowhere are we actually running the search. This is a functionality that's almost built into Flutterflow. So what we want to do is add an action before we navigate to run a simple search, it's called. This is going to search through our recipe documents that we got and search the name and description for whatever is in the text field. This is going to return some results, and we still need a way to send those results to this page. You guessed it, we're going to use page parameters. In addition to sending the search term, we also want to send search results. This is going to be a list of documents of type recipe. And I'm going to click confirm. Now we have our grid view over here. Instead of generating the dynamic children from the recipe documents on the page, we want to generate them from our page parameter search results. This will allow us to display whatever information is sent over. If we go back to our home page, we can modify this workflow, this action, to pass in search results as our simple search results. Now we can try this out. Here I'm going to search in chocolate ice cream. What you see here is the autocomplete functionality. When I click on this, and we can see the widget state is chocolate ice cream, I can then click on this button and it sent it to the next page. We see it automatically put in. And we see chocolate ice cream displayed down here. But we also see this grid up here, which is actually our default grid. It's still being shown. So how do we make it so that the default grid is not shown when there's a search term? We need to use something called conditional visibility. When our search is active, when there's a search term here, we want to hide this no search container. So how do we do that? In order to store whether search is active or not, the easiest way is just to go down here to app values and create an app state variable. This is something that your application stores and it can give you some sort of information. I'm going to add something called search active. This is going to be a Boolean, a yes or no field. This is going to say that search is active, yes or no, and we can just hold that here. By default, search is not going to be active. On here we can go down to visibility and choose something called conditional. We want to say when, and then go to our app state variable. When search is active, this is apply opposite statement. This is not going to be visible. This original results, however, is going to be visible when search is active. So I'm going to search up app state. When search is active, this is visible as well. By default, when the page is loaded, I'm going to say search is active. I'm going to add action on page load to modify our app state to say search is active, to set value to true. Now we can try this out again. Here, when I search up chocolate ice cream, I'm going to be navigated to this page where search is active by default and we only see our chocolate ice cream. Perfect. But now I want to be able to clear the search term and search for something else. How do I do that? Well, it figures that here we have this icon button. But what we can also do is copy paste this and add another button that has this clear X sign. This will serve as the clear button to clear our search term. Just like we had conditional visibility for these containers, we want to say that when search is active, this is visible. And as for this button, it is not visible when search is not active. Now we can add a workflow. In order to clear our search, we need to run two actions. First is going to be to clear our text field. So just search up clear, go to clear text fields and select our text field. The next thing is to update our app state to say that search is not active because we just cleared our search. Let's try this out again. So this is a little complex, but you're going to get used to it after doing this a couple times, as search is important functionality. Here I can search for classic Greek salad. I send this and I'm brought to this page. Because search is active, this X is visible. And I can click on this and it clears everything. Amazing. All we need to do is make it so that we can search again. So when I search up ultimate cheese pizza, it not only auto-completes, but also when I click this, it searches. We have practice doing this simple search, so this isn't going to be too hard. The first thing we want to do is on this text field, go down and choose autocomplete. This is personal preference, but I happen to like it. Under autocomplete properties, autocomplete options, we did this on the other page. We just want to choose our recipe documents and then map list items and get the name. Map the names and then click confirm. But since we did autocomplete on the other page, I'm going to say no autocomplete for this page so you can get a feel of what it looks like with both techniques. Here I'm going to click on the search button and just add the final action to tie it all together and actually run the search. What we want to do is run a simple search. We did this on the other page as well. We want to search through our recipe documents that are part of our page, search the name and description for the value of our text field. Now that we've run the search, we need to somehow send it to our page. So we're actually going to navigate to the page that we're currently on. There are multiple ways to do this, but I think this is just the easiest and the easiest to wrap your head around. We are going to pass in a search term as whatever the value of the text field is, and then search results is going to be these simple search results that we found in our previous action. Now all we need to do is add another action to update our app state to say that search is indeed active. Cool. We can try this out again. I'm going to start by searching for our ultimate cheese pizza. Click the search to go to this page. We see ultimate cheese pizza come up and we can click this X to clear our search. Now I can search for chocolate. We have no autocomplete in this, but you could add that in. I'm going to click this and we are brought to this page again where we navigate for chocolate ice cream. We can then go back, cycle through the previous things we've searched for, and we're brought back to this page. Now, one thing I want to show you is over here when we search for something multiple times and we're brought to a new page. If you don't want it to go back to the previous page, instead of on this icon saying navigate back, you can say navigate to our home page. The last little thing is on this home page, we want to add an action on page load to just clear our text field, because if you saw when we brought back, the query was still there. Now I can search for chocolate ice cream, go to this page, clear it again, search for ultimate cheese pizza. We're brought here. I can go back, we're brought to the home page, and our search term is cleared. So I hope this was helpful. In this video, we learned how to add functionality, navigate between pages, and a lot about how, with the searching, it's based on personal preference for autocomplete, navigate back, etc. The next thing we're going to do is make it so that when we search for something, we can click on it and be brought to a page like this, where we can see more information about the recipe. This is going to use spoiler alert, this is going to use the page parameters that we learned how to use in this video.